Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Wareham School Committee. Today is Thursday, December 20th, 2018. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance first. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm sorry. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast by WCTV, and an audio recording is being made by Mrs. Ruiz. Before we start the meeting tonight, we just have some important news to share about the school committee. Unfortunately, we've received notice of a resignation of one of our members, Rebecca Pratt. Her resignation was effective last Thursday, December 13th. She's not here tonight, but I would like to read her letter of resignation. It's not too long. To whom it may concern, it is with deep and heartfelt sorrow that I tender this letter of resignation from my position as a member of the Wareham School Committee. In order to provide for our family, we have sold our home in Wareham and have purchased a home that better accommodates our needs. This new home, however, is 5 minutes out of the Wareham district and is located in Carver. Due to this move, I am unfortunately ineligible to continue to serve. Please know that this has absolutely been the most difficult decision that I've ever had to make. It has been an honor and truly a privilege to serve the town and our schools as a member of the school committee. My pride and appreciation for the education and experience that we, as a school district, provide to our students has not changed. Our daughter will continue to attend Wareham High School, as Wareham provides the best opportunity and educational experience for our students through our curriculum, our dual enrollment, our AP classes, our IB program, and above all, through our valued and amazing staff. I truly hope that my decision, if not entirely understood, is accepted for what it is, a necessary change for my family. I am proud to be a part of the Wareham community and will continue to serve and volunteer as a proud Viking parent. Again, I want to say thank you for the honor and the privilege to serve our students and our community. Sincerely, Rebecca Pratt. So what will happen now is notice has been made to the Board of Selectmen, and they have to wait until their January 8th meeting because they don't meet due to the holiday. Until then, there will be an application period, and then there will be an appointment made to fill Rebecca's seat. Okay? So the first item on our regular agenda is public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to address the committee? All right. Seeing no one, we'll move on to good news, and I'll turn it over to the superintendent.
I would like to invite Mrs. Cote to recognize our students for the MCAS scores.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
When we presented a few weeks ago for all the MCAS scores, we had some students that were on our drama field trip. So those students are present tonight, at least some of them. When I call your name, please come forward to be recognized. First, I have Samantha Baptiste, who exceeded expectations in math. Jolie Laguerre, who exceeded expectations in ELA. Come on up. Stand up here, okay, so everyone can see you. I have Jessica Black, who exceeded expectations in ELA and advanced in science. Haley Duchmere, who exceeded expectations in ELA. Emma McWilliams, who exceeded expectations in ELA and advanced in science. Charlotte Roy, who exceeded expectations in math and advanced in science. Jaylyn Svedin, who exceeded expectations in ELA. Anna Ambrick, who exceeded expectations in math. Emerson Kearns, who exceeded expectations in ELA. And Kylie Sullivan, who exceeded expectations in ELA. Congratulations.
Next, I invite Mrs. Chandler to come forward.
Thank you, school committee. Tonight's a very special night for the Brown family and the Deacon's family who unite to celebrate Alyssa. So thank you, Alyssa. And if I could have Alyssa come on up. Come on, can you come up with Mom? Deacon's is a very special school. Our staff works together as a family each and every day to make sure each and every child is cared for, finds joy in school, and learns. And on the morning of December 4th, there was no exception to that. At about 8:28, right before school started, I was called out to the parking lot for a medical emergency. Upon my arrival, I was met with staff who were already there, including Mrs. Skolnick, who's here, Mr. Borges, who's here, Mrs. Roberge, who's here, Mrs. Ames, and Nurse Braley, who are all here tonight in the audience, who are assisting. Each member, with their own role, helped Alyssa and the Brown family in their time of need. Office staff, Miss Owen and Miss Skippy Wilcox, called. Medical emergency personnel came right away, and our Deacon's staff directed traffic to ensure the ambulance could enter quickly. Our Deacon's staff responded as they always do by working like they always do like a family who care for others. Now Alyssa and the Brown family can continue to find joy each day. And I want to say thank you so much. Thank you, Miss Brown. And I'd like my Deacon's staff to stand.
Mrs. Chandler, could we have your teachers come forward?
I'm going to announce them now, along with Ms. Semple and the MTA representatives who are here tonight. So, if they will, Miss Nurse Sheila Braley, Mrs. Michelle Skolnick, Mr. Manny Borges, Mrs. Nicole Roberge, Mrs. Ann Ames, Mrs. Helene Owen, Mrs. Skippy Wilcox, and Mrs. Sarah Russo, who are all in the audience, as well as Mrs. Deanna Semple, who's representing the MTA. Come on to...
So I'm Deanna Semple. I'm president of the Wareham Education Association. I'm also a teacher at Deacon's. And I'm so happy to be working alongside such wonderful people here in Wareham that do amazing things every day. And when Dr. Shaverhood told me the Brown family wanted to publicly thank those staff members at Deacon's who played such a vital role in saving Alyssa's life, we thought, why not even go on a larger scale and have the Massachusetts Teachers Association acknowledge those members as well. So it is with special excitement that I welcome to Wareham the Massachusetts Teacher Association President Mary Najemi, and Vice President Max Page to say a few words on behalf of the MTA. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
Thank you very much. So Deanna sent me an email telling me the story of the various ways that veteran teachers responded, and I really got chills because it's a beautiful story, but it's also not a surprising story. This is a story of educators acting on their instincts because we get into education and we put our students in the center. And when we see our students are in need in any way, they fell down and they hurt themselves, or they're in an argument with their students, or they're having trouble with their work, but even in emergency situations like this, veteran teachers, all educators just know how to respond. So this is a story, these are the stories of everyday people doing extraordinary things, and they're never visible and they're never recognized. So I just want to say congratulations and job well done. Thank you.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Just to add a few words, thank you for all having us. We feel real truly honored to be here in the presence of these, these heroes. And I just thought of a famous line from a book called The Brothers Karamazov, and they talk about the loss of a child makes you want to give back your ticket to the universe. And at the same time, we all probably, whatever religion or non-religion we believe in, have the idea that to save one life is like saving the world. So it's kind of remarkable to think of what has happened here. And we talk a lot, one of the best parts of our job is going around the state meeting educators. And our job is to make sure that educators are treated as professionals, but we also all believe, I think in this room, that what's amazing about educators is they're also caring people. And we don't want to ever forget that. And what you all showed is both your professionalism and incredible caring of our children and this particular child. So we're really so honored to have been here and to honor all of you.
Thank you. So I just want to say thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you, Alyssa, for coming. We're really, really happy to see you here. Really happy that you got this opportunity to thank everyone in public for what they did for you that day. And we're really proud of all of our educators in our schools, and especially on a day like that. So thank you very much.
Yes.
Of course you can.
Because of our day we've reached out to the Wareham Fire Department, and they have offered to train all the teachers in town CPR. So everybody will know what to do.
Does anyone else want?
And you will be receiving a certificate from us that we will ask you to please submit a book title, one of your favorite books. We will then purchase the book, have a little placard in the front thanking you for your service and what you did on that special day, and the book will go back to DECUS and will be in the DECUS library. So thank you.
Mike or Mary, do you?
Sure. Wow. Yeah, so you mentioned chills. I mean, I knew we got a message that earlier on when this happened, and it didn't really have many details to protect privacy and such. But when the mom wanted it to be more well known, I cried. I did. I was like, wow. I looked, and I don't see a line item in the budget for a hero stipend. I don't. But if we did, you'd get it. Just so happy with this outcome, and I'm honored by you all being here. And the honor is ours. You guys, awesome.
Thank you. Thanks again for coming. Before you step away, so we would be remiss if we didn't thank you for your effort with the Fund Our Future.
Oh.
And to say that we're proud to be one of the 31 school committees, or that's how many it was the last time I checked.
It's growing.
It is, good.
Great.
Yeah, 3 more
Good.
yesterday.
So thank you.
Yeah.
And, we're happy to support that effort.
Yeah, it's mutual thanks.
And
So,
hopefully Deanna will come back to our meetings and keep us up to date on how that progresses.
Yeah, great.
There will
We
be
need
more
your
steps for your
involvement.
take. Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
definitely. It's a community fight, so we're all in it together.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so while we're still on good news, does anyone have any good news they'd like to share? No? Well, I just have a couple of things. The first thing is I went to the concert at the high school Saturday night. The Ornament Band, I know no one's really listening to me. The Ornament Band was amazing. I don't know if anyone else here was there, but I'm already buying my tickets for the next Saturday night. They're going to be at La Salette. They were really good. And it's a group of educators. Most of them are music teachers in area schools, and it was really, really awesome. I hope it was a successful fundraiser for the Music Boosters. It looked like it was one of the most well-attended events I've been to at Wareham High School. So, yeah, it was really, really good. And just another piece of good news, we attended the Finance Committee meeting last night, and they voted to let the application for the CPC funds for the track project move to the next step. Yes, thank you. So that is really good news also, so. All right, next on the agenda is the minutes of the last 2 meetings. First meeting is November 29th, 2018.
Move to accept?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 300. The next one is December 6th, the public hearing. Does anyone have any questions, or?
Move to accept.
Okay. Mary, you weren't there, so you,
Ah.
yeah,
But I abstained from when we voted.
okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained?
Abstained.
Okay, so 201, Michelle? Okay. Next on the agenda is the update on the elementary building project.
We visited MSBA on December 12th, and I'm thrilled to say MSBA voted to approve the elementary building project. The building committee met this past Monday, and we voted at that meeting to extend the contracts of the Mount Vernon Group Architects, PMA Consultants, as a project owner manager. So this will move forward with the 2 people, or the 2 groups that we've been working with. On Monday of this week, MSBA appointed a commissioning agent. The commissioning agent will be SMMA, who was the agent for Wareham Middle School when it was built. As a commissioning agent, what they do is they perform third-party design reviews over the next year. They'll review products, submittal data before it's approved, and then will verify proper operations of mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire, and security systems. They also will do visual inspections during the course of the construction, and then an infrared scan of the roof upon completion. So they're an integral part of the building project, so we now have them on board. When you look at our work plan, the following things will occur. We had the commissioning agent assigned. We'll begin meeting in groups with people to review various components of the project. We'll look at color schemes, we'll be looking at the site project, security, building, designs, and we'll continue with the meetings. The other thing that we're looking to do is to find a theme for the building, and how does it relate to Wareham? So you'll be hearing more about that in the upcoming months. We anticipate that a package for the abatement and demolition will go out to bid on April 15th. which means we will be ready to turn the building over for the abatement and demolition likely the end of May or the first part of June is when it will begin. When you look at our payments so far, the MSBA, to date, we're approximately $261,185 under budget. So we feel very good of where we have brought this project in so far. I've also been in contact with John Foster, and we're beginning the collection of the needed documents for the borrowing, so that's started. We anticipate all our documents being in line by the first of the year. So we're well on the road. We have, we'll be bringing to you updates on a very regular basis, and when we start, we'll also be bringing pictures. So if you have any questions, happy to answer them.
Does anyone have any questions?
PMA was selected for what?
To be the project manager.
And did anyone else submit a bid or anything, or are they just the only one?
No, we just continued, we voted to continue
Okay.
the group.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the fall athletic report. Good evening.
Just read a few things. There's been improvement in the volleyball, boys soccer, and girls soccer on a regular basis last several years. The field hockey team won a nice award from the MIAA for their community service. Those would probably be the highlights of the fall season. If you have any questions on any of the things in the report, please ask.
Does anyone have any questions? I have a question. So I was just reading the report, so obviously football is an expensive sport.
Yes.
And it brings in money too, and we all enjoy football. But it just led me to question expense in girls versus boys. So I can't just base it on one season. So I did go back to the last 2 seasons, reports that you gave me, and figured out, how much sports cost, boys versus girls.
Yeah.
So boys cost more. Is that something that you?
Well, it could be, there's several reasons there. One of it could be the amount of participants in the sports too.
Right.
And we do have user fees, and typically, for some reason, the girls don't receive as many waivers. They pay more for it. There aren't as many waivers, all need income base. And maybe that one of the factors. As far as everything else, officials, whatever else is needed, it comes out to about the same. I mean, I don't know why it would be such a big discrepancy between the girls and the boys.
Well, I mean, there's a big discrepancy in fall because of football.
Oh, well, because of football.
But so that's why, but
Yeah.
I didn't base my comment on one season. I went back
Oh.
and looked at the other, so I had a whole year to look at. And I'd be happy to share with you what I did, not right
Sure.
now, but I can share with you. But yeah, so boys definitely cost more than girls.
Football does, yes. And probably
And
ice
some
hockey.
girls sports, like girls basketball, cost more than boys basketball per
it's-
player, which was surprising to me.
Because boys' basketball brings in more money
Right.
at the, for admissions to the game. And football this year was the first year, we had 4 home games outside of the Thanksgiving game the night before. They all lost money, like $500 to $1,000, which has never happened before. And
Just because
the
of
only-
low attendance? Is
Low
that right?
attendance, there's $2,000 or $3,000 right there. There weren't as many kids on the team, so now there's not as many kids paying user fees for the sport. And then this year, the coaches across the board, as well as the teachers, all got a pay raise, so there was more money there. So it's like the perfect storm. I'm hoping next year that we have more numbers, and that should change things, and hopefully we'll start winning some games. That will change the money at the gate. Boys basketball, for example, their first game, they made more money in the first game than any football game except for the Thanksgiving Day. So, it's all relevant to that. Some sports don't bring in any money like that. Boys basketball does. football, girls basketball, those would be the, and ice hockey. The other ones are all, there's nothing, I mean, there's no payment coming in except for the user fees. And then the officials are the same, the buses, I mean, there's no discrepancy. Uniforms, we have a rotating basis. And we think they're all coaches are satisfied with the uniforms. So it's just what it is. I think football is a big factor in the change of the amount of money for boys versus girls.
I think, too, I don't think it's fair for a kid or kids to be penalized based on the cost of their sport. We'll be coming back in a few months talking about winter sports, and hockey will be the most expensive sport. Kids choose to play sports because they're passionate about that sport. And there's been years where soccer has cost more than football because of the number of kids participating. So I think it moves around. Maybe the last 2 years aren't great examples for football, but I know in the 90s and early 2000s, we didn't have enough shirt numbers to hand out because of the number of kids that were participating. So that cost per student was a lot lower. But we do charge a tiered system for user fees based on the cost of the sport, so that the kids that are playing the more expensive sport are paying a lot more than the kids that maybe are playing tennis, where it's a really inexpensive sport.
Yeah, the sports that don't require officials, really, really low. The officials cost a lot of money. Just for a basketball game, for example, it's $84 for each one.
Right.
Just for the officials. So if there's no officials, that makes a big difference. Football, there's 6 officials at like $90-something a piece. It's insane. I mean, it's just, that's the way it is.
And there's a lot of safety
Yeah.
pieces that we need for equipment to make sure the kids are safe. So it does get expensive, but Ed does a great job really trying to keep it as cost-effective as possible, really keeping an eye on the cost per student, which I'm excited about making sure we can see that number and trying to keep that as low as possible.
Right. No, I agree. I'm not talking about user fees. I just, I'm a supporter of athletics
Yeah.
at the high school, and I just want to see the program grow. I'm just watching out for the girls. I just want to make sure that everything is equitable.
Right, and we would love to, I talked to the basketball coach, I'd love to see a girls freshman team. That would certainly skew the numbers cost per student, but there wasn't enough interest this year. But that's something that's on my radar. Love to see that. We'd love to see cross-country boys and girls come back into the fold, possibly as early as next year. That's something we would like to see. There's enough interest at the middle school with Coach Stommer and everything she's doing down there with the middle school students to continue that in the high school. So, that would be another opportunity for girls in the fall.
And volleyball has really grown, too. We actually had freshman games for them this year.
Oh, really? Yeah,
yes.
I see the number is high.
And field hockey's getting better. They're all getting, it's up and down, and we're hoping that we can keep the students here in Wareham, especially the younger ones, and they'll continue to grow, but there's no rhyme or reason why. In other words, this is why this costs more, whatever. It's all based on, we all have the same amount of buses, officials, coaches, whatever it may be, and it just so happens in some ways it's more for the boys or more for the girls sometimes.
Well, I think you're right. The sports program definitely has something to do with keeping kids in Wareham, and we all want that. So anything that we can do to help you bolster the sports program, just,
Great, we're trying. Hopefully football will come back. I like the coach that we have, and one thing I like to say about him, if there was a coach of the year for what he went through this year to get us through the football season, he should get it. I know we didn't do very well, but I mean, just to keep that whole thing together was amazing to me. I don't know if I could have done it as a coach, what he did. And he has a great attitude, and we're hoping come January, he's starting this weightlifting conditioning program and all that. And hopefully by May, we have the numbers up and we can go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just want to give a shout out to girls soccer, I guess. Highest GPA, 94.2. That's great. That's awesome.
That's been amazing here. To me, I'm coming from a different school. The GPA for the sport teams it's amazing to me. It really is. I mean, overall, it's almost like 90. It's unbelievable. And for a team of, she probably have 25 girls that have a 94 point something GPA.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
And in field hockey, is that a varsity sport?
Yes.
And we take 7th graders?
Well, we've had to go down to the 7th graders for some sports because of the lack of numbers.
I just didn't know it was allowed.
That's more for JV.
That's more, they don't play varsity.
Oh, okay, all right.
But, we have eighth graders on varsity teams.
This year.
This year. Well, this year, yeah, because of they're at the
8
high
through
school.
12.
Yeah, we have 8 through 12, but, yeah, it's, the numbers have been low, and that, they've actually helped. We have seventh graders for field hockey, and we will have it for, well, we haven't put it in for it, but the only one would be tennis.
Girls' tennis.
Girls' tennis. So,
Seventh
oh, no,
graders,
actually,
wow.
we have winter track for the girls and the boys, too. And it's actually, their girls' track team is up to 30-some-odd girls because of that. You know, we're pretty happy with that. And our goal with that, little ones, the younger ones, is hopefully they'll like it and they'll want to continue to stay at Wareham High School, you know, and continue to go. But yeah, we have some seventh graders on our winter track team, and actually they're doing quite well, actually, for themselves.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the high school course of studies.
Thank you. I'd like to call up the assistant principal, Ms. Freitas, and I also have department heads on call behind me. If we need them, when we come up to the specific content area they're in charge of, I'd be happy to bring them up. So I apologize, we have a lot of changes because the 8th graders are now in the high school. So this is maybe a little larger of a packet as you're used to. I hope you found the changes to the course of study helpful, rather than having to go through all 60-some-odd pages of the course of studies. So I'll just kind of review some of, and I won't read everything because I know you've already read it. So I'll just go through some of the major changes, and then certainly answer any questions at the end that you may have. And again, we have department heads that are here that will help us out. So we'll get them up here as well if needed. So we had to change 8th grade promotion requirements. Now that the 8th graders are here, we just aligned our absences, our alignment to the number of courses they must pass, comparable to 9th graders. We also had a statement there on summer school and retaining students. We have a new course that we're hoping any student that is retained can fit into their schedule. We're going to make that a requirement, student and learning skills. We also took a look at some of the alternative pathways to IB, and what I'm most proud of in regards to these pathways is that every student in the school can be enrolled in an IB course, and there's many different ways that they can get there to the IB courses in as early as 10th grade, certainly as late as 12th grade. So you have in there some adjustments to the IB math pathways and also to the science pathways. So those are ways that students can get into those courses.
Excuse me, can I just interrupt?
Please.
Is that true right now, that all kids can have access to the IB right now?
Yes.
So
if they're in,
that's not a change. That's something that's going on right now.
right, but the change would be
10th grade.
they would have to be in 11th grade right now or enrolled in the dual enrollment program. These pathways offer the students an opportunity to get there without being in dual enrollment,
Okay,
which was very important, that we have equal access to for all, not just kids that were in dual enrollment.
Okay.
So that's the changes on the first 2 pages of the change sheet. We also have, I mentioned on page 3 of the change sheet, study and learning skills for grade 8 and also for grade 9. One of the pieces that excited us the most about having the 8th graders in the high school was having an opportunity to be able to have some remedial courses without having the concern of age disparity between the student in 8th grade and maybe the student in 5th grade, in this case even younger at the middle school. So we're really excited about having an opportunity to provide remediation for the 8th graders, but also to hold them accountable for our standards and expectations. So those are some great classes. We also have study skills that we're going to be incorporating for grade 9 students, and we hope that those would give the students the support they need. These would be very similar to our core academic courses that we offer for students that have IEPs. We offered a lot of elective courses for our 8th graders. One elective is our 8th grade Young Entrepreneur. This is, as one teacher once called it, Baby DECA. So this is students that are on the path to be involved in the DECA program. This is an opportunity through the experiential period that they have. They would have 1 term of this course, and every 8th grader could take this if they choose to as an option. We're really trying to revamp on the next page the School to Career program to challenge our students for more career placement. So we kind of tiered the course into two courses. One is more for students that just want to get into the community, get some opportunities, possibly at multiple locations, to really try and figure out what it is that they want to do after high school. The other program is the School to Career Placement. These will be for kids that kind of already know what they want to do. They want to go into, let's say, the business field. They want to go into nursing, and we would align them with those professional locations within the town boundaries. So we're trying to just kind of change that. This is School to Career has been in there for as long as I can remember. It's always been a great opportunity, but we're really trying to make it two different levels. Another 8th grade course that we offer as an elective is the leadership course. This is a course taught by our JROTC teachers, and it's an opportunity for students to learn a lot about leadership, and it was really one of our more popular electives. It was so popular we had to double the number of classes we intended to offer because it was so popular. So that's an 8th grade elective. Moving on to 8th grade health. The health teachers are really excited about having 2 years of health and having classes taught really in classrooms that are pretty much back to back. So there's a lot of collaboration that's going on in there, and they're really able to get pretty deep into the curriculum by splitting it up between an 8th grade age-appropriate curriculum and a 9th grade age-appropriate curriculum. So it's really exciting to see what they're doing. Physical education, as you all know, is a state requirement. So obviously we had to add that in there for the 8th grade. And then moving on, 8th grade English language arts. That is a class, obviously, they're all required to take. And then the 8th grade fine arts. This is another elective course students can take during the experiential period. And that's an option that students can choose to take that. That is another course that's offered for a term. Aligned with that class is the digital arts on the next page, which again is a term course. And it's amazing what they're doing in there as 8th graders. It floors me when I walk in because it's way over my head. Intro to Music and Songwriting is a high school course. Our students love to create music, and Make a Beat was very successful, and this is another extension of that type of course. On Thursday of last week, if you had a chance, we had our winter concert, and it was awesome to see the number of 8th graders that were involved in that concert. Definitely outnumbered the students in any other grade, that's for sure. And we've got a great elective class, the 8th grade concert band, which at last check was in the 20s as far as the number of 8th graders that were in there. And we also have 8th grade concert choir that has about the same number of students. So the program is really expanding, and it's great to have those as electives as well. Having the 8th graders at the high school, we have an opportunity to allow them to pick a foreign language, and the students had that option this year, and we would like them to have that option again next year. What this allows us to do is on the back end, when they're seniors, to offer advanced placement courses in French and Spanish, and to also offer level 5, which we haven't had level 5 courses in Spanish or French in quite a few years. So it's really exciting to have that opportunity, giving them that 8th grade experience. It just builds a great foundation for them to jump into French 1 and Spanish 1. So those are 2 courses that the students have the option of taking right now. I would say 75% are taking the Spanish, but there are about 25% of the 8th graders that are enrolled in French, and we hope those numbers kind of get balanced over time, but that's where we're at right now. Grade 8 math, again, required course for all 8th grade students, so that's a new course for us that we've added. And then in science, we had visions of being able to offer a semester-long lab component to AP Chemistry and Bio. We just didn't have the staff to make it happen. So we try to make this as realistic as possible in regards to making sure we're not teasing the students when they get the course selection sheets going. Any course we put on there, we can run. If we can't run it, we try not to put it on there. We feel it's kind of a tease to the students to put something there that you know you don't have a chance to run. So we're taking those 2 off for that reason. The chemistry, Right now, we don't have someone right now that's certified to teach that class, so we're just taking that off for now. We do hope in the future to have that back on there, because chemistry is such a great class, and we're hoping down the road we'll be back in front of you asking for that class to be added. Creative biology is the same situation as the first two. We just don't have the sections in science to be able to offer a great elective course like that. But maybe down the road, we will keep that on file. 8th grade science, again, that is an elective course, I'm sorry, that is a required course for all students, and it's obviously, we have great enrollment there. 8th grade dual enrollment STEM survey. So this would be for this is the STEM class that the 8th graders took when they were in dual enrollment in the past. They would go back to the middle school and take this course, because what happens is there are standards in math and science when it's taught at the freshman level that are not covered, that they will be tested on. So this is really a very important class for those students to be enrolled in, to make sure that it's a level playing field when they are being compared to their peers. So we really need that to make sure we cover the standards. Just some minor changes in some of the other classes. The Environmental Systems and Society is a new class in science for IB. You heard earlier we lost, the chemistry course. We can't offer that for next year, but we really hope to maintain a certain number of science IB courses, and this would be one of them. The Computer Science Essential 8th grade computer science was our second most popular elective for 8th graders, and I believe that's truly a tribute to the STEM program at the middle school as to why that many students were excited about that program. So this is, again, allows for that extension for what they're doing, great things that they're doing at the middle school. The Intro to Computer Science for grade 8 is another elective that we hope that the students will get on board with. And there are 2 other classes that we're hoping to be able to run kind of in elective mode. One is cybersecurity. Obviously, this is a cutting-edge class dealing with real-life issues that we probably have all dealt with in one capacity or another. And then the 8th grade STEM class. Moving on to the virtual high school and Edgenuity, I just wanted to include that in there. These are lists of courses that students have taken through Edgenuity or can take, but I've included in here the link as well. There are a lot of opportunities, hundreds of courses that we really couldn't offer at the high school just because there wouldn't be enough student interest. So these courses offer us a couple of things. One, they offer us flexibility in scheduling. If a student can't fit a certain class into their schedule, this is an opportunity for them to do it at the time that works for them. What it also does is, with virtual high school, it's a little bit more competitive than Edgenuity. They offer online advanced placement courses. So again, an opportunity for a student who maybe, when they're taking advanced courses, they're only offered usually for one period. So sometimes there's a log jam where you just can't fit a certain course into your schedule. And Edgenuity and VHS are great options. Ms. Freitas oversees both of these programs and does a great job with our school librarian to make sure we meet the needs of the students. Students get real-time information from the librarian in regards to their standing, their grades. And this is a tough course because it requires a lot of self-management, and you really have to stay on it because it can snowball on you, and you can get so far behind, it's tough to catch back up. So they do a great job of identifying which program is best for the students based on their needs and their skill set, and we align them, I believe, with the right class almost all the time. So certainly, again, we've got department heads. I'd love to have them come up and answer any questions you may have. Or Ms. Freitas.
Does anyone have any questions? Mary, go ahead.
I only have a couple, or a few, because it's 3. A couple is 2, right? So my first question is there a minimum number of students that are required to run a course?
So what we try and do is we like to be in double digits to start. What happens is, and I take pictures. I remember one class I texted to Mr. Reuter and I said, I'm texting you this now so you know I'm not crazy in August when you get the schedule and the numbers are skewed. We like double digits. We try to be in that number. Our teachers, as I'm sure you're sick of me saying, agreed about 7 years ago to teach an extra class so we could run some electives with low numbers to meet the needs of our students. We feel, you do it on one end, we want to do it on both ends. Usually the classes with the low numbers, as I'm sure you're aware, would be either special ed or the advanced placement IB courses. So we try to run, we try to get to double digits. We try to see, okay, are there some kids maybe in honors that Mr. Murray is a magician with this, having conversations with the kids about really pushing the envelope, and Ms. Kavicki's joined suit as well, trying to get some of those honor kids maybe to push it and go and do the advanced placement, and that gives us a little more balance.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is, what would you say the average class size is for your IB classes?
I would say it's in the low teens would be my guess, right off, without giving you the exact numbers. That would be my guess. Where it started was probably mid-teens, and then as kids get their schedule and they want to move some things around, it comes down a little bit.
Okay. And then my last question, which I've asked before, and I'm still kind of waiting for an answer, is how many special needs students do you think are accessing IB, dual enrollment, and AP courses?
I would say, I'll get you those numbers. I know you've asked before. Sometimes when I walk out of here and get back to school, I forget about things. I'd want to get you that, but I can certainly send that to the superintendent and make sure you get that. But it's open to all. We've lowered the requirements, Ms. Freitas and I.
I'm just curious how many are accessing.
Right. Probably not as many as we'd like, but I'll get you an exact number on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that when the district team was here from the Department of Ed,
Yep.
they went to 93 classrooms while they were here, and they attended an AP classroom that was also inclusion.
Oh, good.
So just to let you know, that was a
Right.
class that they ended up at accidentally because it wasn't on purpose.
That wasn't planned.
No, it couldn't have been, but just so that you know, there are two teachers in that group, and they have an inclusion teacher there to help support that.
Okay, good, thank you.
There are definitely students in both programs. I will say that the dual enrollment program at the college level, they are limited in regard to passing the AccuPlacer exam. So while we may recommend students, they still have to pass those exams.
Mm-hmm.
They have to be able to take college-level courses in order to qualify. The college does not allow them to take any remedial courses.
Okay,
So that's the state program.
okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
Good.
Dr. Schwam, I think you mentioned when they did the district review that they attended an AP class that was an inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Are all of those kids required to take the AP exam?
Yes.
Any student that's enrolled, and that's been in place for at least 15 years that I can remember, they're required to take the exam.
But, all right, so even in the inclusion class, and I presume these kids are doing well.
Well, they're inclusion students in an AP class. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, yeah.
I just may add, I'm also one of the SSD coordinators who applies for accommodations through the College Board. It's a different process than through MCAS, for instance. Documents need to be uploaded based on testing that's been done. So there are definitely accommodations that are made, but the College Board needs to approve those.
Okay. So I had asked you about the school choice numbers. I asked you last year, like how many school choice kids were coming in just to take advantage of IB, because that was sort of one of the selling points, that we'd get some school choice kids in, but we didn't get any last year, and it sounds like we didn't get any this year. Are we doing enough outreach to let other towns know about this?
I think we have. I think we've done a lot, and I think you saw in the email, it takes a while for the kid to be eligible for the IB courses. So what happens is kids traditionally don't transfer in school choice junior and senior year. They transfer in our case, 8th or 9th grade. So we do have some kids that are taking advanced level courses at 8th or 9th grade that I think are in range to be enrolled in IB courses. So I think if you ask that question, hopefully you're still on school committee in a few years, I think if you ask that, the number that you will receive is probably what you would expect and what you would want. So I think, it's going to take a little while. This is only our second year. But I will tell you, I've gotten a lot of calls from neighboring principals in regards to our IB and dual enrollment, and they're feeling some pressure.
It's only the second year?
It's only the second year.
Yep.
I know, we spent a lot of time
Officially, we had
planning and
3 years to
preparing to make
plan
sure.
for it.
Right. So I think that's why people think we've been involved in it for so long, but the reality is the kids have only been involved in it for a year and a half.
Would it be fair to say that since IB has been added, we've got IB and AP, are they cutting it all into the honors curriculum?
Not the honors, but I think there's, the pool is only so large that kids are having to make decisions whether to do IP or IB, AP or IB.
All right. You were at a school committee meeting not too long ago, and you said something that I loved, and you said that you will advocate for, students to the point of insubordination.
I don't know if Dr. Shaver would like that, but yes, I did say that.
No, I love that. I love that because I like to think that I do too, but whereas you're at the high school, I got to advocate for everybody.
Right, understood.
Right? So I'm going to pass out your class size reports for last year and this year, and I just wanted to go over some numbers. Pass that down. Keep going down, I guess. Yeah. And in this, I just happened to highlight stuff. I need one back.
You need that.
So I just happened to pick out some numbers that stuck out to me, mostly that there were 8 or less kids in the class. All right, so let's start with last year, 17 and 18. And, what sticks out here is we got IB biology, we got 5 kids in that one with 1 class, right? AP US history, 6 kids in that one with 1 class, right? IB history, 4 kids, 1 class. IB TOK, theory of knowledge, 3 kids in 1 class, all right? And now we'll fast forward. Now that, I
Do
brought
you want me to respond, or you just want to?
last year I brought this up, and the point was made to me, like, Mike, you have to understand, a lot of these are just seniors. It was the tail end, and, next year we'll get more kids, and okay, so I waited for next year, and this is next year. So when we look at 18 and 19, I mean, you want to be in double digits. We're still in, mid digits, so mid single digits. So we're at AP Lit and Composition, that's 7 kids, 1 class. AP Calculus, 8 kids, 1 class. AP Statistics, 5 kids, 1 class.
Yeah,
There are some variables, may I speak?
yeah, please.
There are some variables. And one thing is that we do have an add drop period where we do honor the students, they try out a class. And so we are already committed to a class, for instance, okay?
Yeah.
And the students, we may have, say, 15 kids that might have signed up for a particular class, so we always try to honor those kids' requests. So we run the class based on that number. Come the first week or second week of school, we also honor their request to be removed from a class or change a class. Sometimes the student's involvement in a class that they really want to get into, it conflicts with another class that maybe wasn't their top choice, but for instance, it could be a DECA student, or it could be they really want IB biology. It may conflict with another course that they've signed up for, so they end up dropping the other course so they can get into that course that they really are passionate about.
Yeah.
So again, we are driven by student choice. So many of the drops that we have may come into play with that. And so those class sizes that result are part of that process.
All right, just for the record, I'd like to continue. AP Physics, 6 kids, 1 class. IB Biology Year 2, 5 kids, 1 class. Interestingly, for that one, IB Biology Year 1's got 17, so I would assume a lot of that would carry over. AP Government, one class, 4 kids. IB History Year 1, 4 kids, 1 class. IB History Year 2, 4 kids, 1 class. And how about IB Language Acquisition, Year 1 and Year 2, 5 kids, 1 class, and 8 kids, 1 class respectively. What is that, IB Language Acquisition?
It's a foreign language.
Okay. So, like I said, I love what you do there. I love what's going on there. But when I have to sit at an all-day meeting for the budget, and I have to ask, Ms. Siemens and Ms. Cote, You know, do you have any classes with 4 kids in your regular ed classes? And you know, they look at me like I got 4 heads, obviously.
Apples and oranges.
Well,
I can't put 25 kids and say, okay, we're going to go 25 here, 25 here, 25 here,
no,
25 here.
obviously.
Right.
But I mean, come on, you know, 4 kids.
We're starting a program, Mike. It's going to take a few years to get it going. I mean, we have a 3-year plan, but we can't evaluate something on the second year we're doing something.
But you realize when I see this, that the thing is, we've got awesome teachers.
Right.
I'm paying someone with a master's degree to sit in front of 4 kids.
For
And
one
I've got
period.
Well, yeah, a whole bunch of periods, apparently, right?
For one period for each class.
Yeah.
And remember, these teachers all agreed to teach an extra course so we could do things like this. We have it on the special ed level. We have to have it on the advanced level.
All right. I'm wondering if this is sustainable. Like, it's the second year.
Right.
Convince me that these numbers are going to improve next year.
Well, they're only going to improve every year. You just said it with, there was an English
Well, there
class.
was one. Yeah, there was one that was.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to take time. And, you know, we're also looking at, there are some AP courses we didn't offer this year that we've run in the past because, you know, we know the pool is only so large as far as number of students that can be involved in these type of programs. So we're always trying to be as efficient as possible. We promised students that they could receive a diploma through this program.
I know.
There are certain courses that we have to run. All right. Now, as we're seeing with dual enrollment, you know, we started with, Debbie, you remember we started with a less than a handful number of students. We anticipate having almost 20 students involved next year. Now, that didn't just happen. No one was really looking at that because it didn't really impact any of the teachers.
Yeah.
You know, 20 kids being out of the building for half a day. You know, how many teachers does that save to allow us to do things like this?
Yeah. Like I said, I got to balance it with the whole district, you know, and when I see this, it's just screaming out to me.
And if they weren't teaching an extra period, I probably wouldn't be able to run this program.
Let me ask you this. So the AP, the requiring kids to take the exam in the AP, that's a Wareham thing. Not a lot of districts do that, right?
Right. Some are very selective and say if you don't have an A, you can't take the test.
Right.
Boy, would that skew the numbers.
Yeah. So if we got rid of that requirement and let kids take the class and not have to worry about taking the exam, do you think that might help some numbers?
I think it may help the numbers, but it would ruin the integrity of the classroom.
Really?
You'd have students enrolled to bolster their transcript with really not a lot of accountability. And Ms. Freitas taught AP, so she might be able to tell us more about that.
Well, I see Mr. Ruda shaking his head over there. I
can't see him.
Yeah.
I do.
I
Go
agree
ahead.
with Mr. Palladino. I think
You want to come up, Brent?
I think it's about the integrity of the class, because if you, those who've been on school committee for a while have heard many of us talk about the Mass Insight MIMSI grant that we were part of. The express goal of that grant was to increase access to challenging coursework by lowering barriers and encouraging students to stretch. And I believe it was 3 years ago in school committee meeting, we reported that the AP enrollment went up double digits every year for many successive years. So that program has been successful. And what we have is an advanced program where teachers and students themselves push each other to take that leap to do college level work. And anything that would kind of take away from that integrity, I don't think would serve the long-term interests of the class. And students who get into AP and they drop, so you see, some of those numbers that you read, Mr. Palladino, when he was running those courses, they were in double digits. And students get in, they see the work level. It's not the test that's scaring them away. It's competition. We're competing with ourselves within the building, as both Ms. Freitas and Mr. Palladino said, but it's also just the level of work when they get into the class. I think the exam for most high school students, at least in my experience at Wareham, as limited as it is far enough away that that's not the deterrent.
Okay. All right.
And we've softened the cost as well, so money's not an issue. Dr. Schwam has written grants to help offset those. So it's really truly a level playing field.
Now, is there a requirement for the IB kids to take that exam?
to take an exam, they have the option of taking the AP exam if they want to.
No, well, no, that's what I mean. So the IB kids, there's an IB exam, right?
Correct, and of
So
course
do-
exam.
So do they have to take the IB exam?
Yes,
They
same
do?
rules
So
apply.
is that in the, is that a policy, a school committee policy?
No.
I know the AP is.
It's part of the course description.
All right. All right.
I think
Okay.
the other thing we have to understand is that we are, again, the integrity of the courses. And the tests are a way for us to assess our teaching, the instruction in those courses, and whether we're doing the right job with that. The teachers get quite a bit of feedback. They get reports based on their instructional reports every year that they get. Same thing with the PSAT testing. We have, it's an AP potential tool that the College Board allows us, and we run those scores based on their PSAT abilities, their scores, whether or not they should be eligible or being encouraged to take AP classes. These tests, again, the students have to take them, but they do not have to submit those scores to the colleges. We make that quite clear to them. So they have the option of doing that. If they get the 3, the 4, or the 5, they can certainly submit those scores. If they choose those scores, if they choose not to, then that is totally up to them.
The analogy would be if you're going to train for a marathon, but in the back of your mind always know that you're never going to run the marathon, you don't train that hard. So even if your time in the marathon isn't what other people are, or if you're further back in the pack, the fact that you train for a marathon, and I'm comparing AP courses obviously in that level of knowledge to training for and then running a marathon, that the benefit is in the striving.
Okay. All right. I'm going to keep an eye on these numbers. I mean, if they're not improving next year, it's going to get tougher, for me anyway.
Great, thank you.
Can I just
Sure,
ask
go
a
ahead.
clarifying question? So, from what I understand, that you couldn't, for some of these courses there's a small class size and it's a required course, so you couldn't necessarily drop that course like a college would, or we don't have enough students, so we have to unfortunately drop that course.
Right, so there are certain courses that are a requirement for the students that are trying to attain the diploma through the IB program. So those courses we do have to offer. What we hope is, again, as we build this, in year 3 and year 4, we start to hit our stride where maybe we're even offering 2 sections. I would hope we would never have to drop down to no sections and say to the kid, well, you've invested 2 years now, or a year now, and you're into your second year, but we can't offer that TOK because there's only X number of students. I think, in talking with the other programs that I trained with, that were programs that were in existence, they said, it really takes 3 or 4 years to really hit your stride. I said, well, that makes sense. That's kind of a business model. Year 3, you hope to start turning profit. For us, in year 3, we want to hit our numbers where, we don't have this type of questioning.
And one other thing I noticed, I think it was in the course descriptions, it was somewhere in there that it noted that please be aware that if you decide to take an IB course, or I think AP was in dual enrollment, that it will affect your outside activities.
Disclaimer,
So
right. And that's at the very beginning.
Do you think that might discourage kids too?
Well, we want kids to be successful. We want to challenge them, but we want them to be successful. If they have a lot, and I think it references work and outside of school responsibilities, I think it's in the very beginning before the courses in regards to the AP courses and expectations. We want kids to go in, and it's not like a situation where we want them going in kind of sight unseen. We want them to know what they're getting into. We want to describe it to the best of our ability. Word of mouth is a great advertiser, obviously, so we hope through the guidance presentations, through our presentations, through the parent presentations, everyone has a good pulse on exactly what they're getting into. But we hope that, I don't like when those numbers fluctuate. When you start off with 12 and then you get down to 4, it's kind of frustrating. And it's tough when you have that kind of movement. We have a large population that fluctuates from one year to the next. And it does impact AP and IB. Right. Not to the same extent it would with college prep, but there is an impact there. So I hope it doesn't deter students from signing up. But again, we want students to make a good decision and hopefully stick with the schedule that we have in place in May.
Right. And you're being honest, because I know when I went on a blog or something about students who were in IB programs, that was one of the main things they said, that it really does affect their outside activities.
Definitely. It's a college-level course.
And then just the last one that I just thought of when you were talking about, and yes, special ed courses are smaller too. So are you mainly talking about the sub-separate programs, or you have?
Well, it's mostly sub-separates that would be similar in size. You know, inclusion kind of gets blended in, so it's more sub-separate. But again, required,
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
by law.
definitely
It's
by
not
law,
like,
yeah.
but I like to do it on all ends. I like to support the students on every level,
Right.
if you will.
So what is your smallest size sub-separate?
Well, Ms. Cannon's here. Let me call up Ms. Cannon. Put you on the spot, Ms. Cannon. I know I'm going to say it's a handful anyway. Come on up.
I wanted to compliment Mr. Reuter on his tie.
That's on the record now, Brent.
So we run core academics, which is a C-grid service. It's an academic support class. We run it 8 periods, and depending on when other classes are offered, there may be a core academics class with 8 kids in it. It doesn't mean that there's not a core academics run the next period that has twice as many kids in it, because there's no way to plan that. That just depends on what classes they take. So I think we have a few periods of core academics that would be below 10. And then for the substantially separate setting, we have certain periods in the kids with social emotional disabilities, different ranges of them. We have certain periods that the kids will go out for electives. So on paper, the numbers will look small. It doesn't mean that they don't return to the class often because they need to that day. But that's not something that will show on paper. That's something that this week, those classes are much larger. It's a hard week. So I think that
ASD program.
this year our ASD and young adult are combined, so it doesn't show as small. But we do have an academic support 1 period that's for our ASD kids who are in inclusion. So that period fluctuates semester to semester and may be smaller than 10. I can look each period up, but our sub-separates that run all day, our numbers aren't that small. But certain periods they could be. So it's different than every other school just because they take the same, every student in the school takes electives, no matter what program they're in. So, and they take electives they want to take. So one might take an art, one might take music, so that will.
I mean, that's like at the elementary level, they take specials.
Right, but the class will take a special, so it may be that kids in Ms. Kashner's class take 2 kids leave this period because they want art, and 2 kids leave the next period, so we don't have a period that's their elective period.
Right, okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I just had a couple of questions. Actually, you answered a lot of the questions that I had. So what is different about school to career that next year than compared to this year?
So I think you would have, you'd have 2 groups. You'd have one group that the students really aren't sure what they want to do post-high school. So we're going to give them a little bit more of a range of opportunities. And then we'd have other students that are, this is what I want to do. So we're going to try and align their placement with where they see themselves after high school. So one is more focused on one placement versus the other one could be multiple placements.
And do students have to find their own placement, or does someone in the school do that for them?
We have someone that does that, but if a student has a lead ahead of time, and this is something that they want to do and they've already created a relationship, they would make sure that that's aligned. But I would say the majority are through contacts the school has, specifically the school to career coordinator.
Okay. Is it difficult to make those connections in the community?
It takes time. It takes, knocking on doors and, kind of running around, but in time, the town is really, they've been awesome about allowing for us to have those opportunities. I mean, there's almost every professional employer, many different municipalities as well. We've had opportunities, I mean, you name the location, we've pretty much been there. All the way from the fire department, all the way to the different schools, downtown professional buildings, law offices.
Good, that's
you know,
great.
And then Andrea's group, the students that go off of vocational experience, have probably a dozen companies that they work with, and I think you might be familiar with that.
Yes.
And you know, so the town, they've been wonderful to the high school in regards to allowing our students to have opportunities for internships, if you will, at their in their locations.
Well, good, I'm glad to hear they're not limited just to a few places that are,
Right.
that their choice, their interests are served. Yeah.
And that bus goes all over town. So where there's a will, there's a way.
Okay. The 8th grade leadership course, so that is open to all students?
All students.
All right. When I read it, I was afraid that it was only open to JROTC.
No.
It sounded, like a great opportunity, and I was hoping that that was.
All students, and again, one of our more popular electives for the 8th graders.
8th grade students for foreign language, is that something they took at the middle school too, or is that new? It is, okay.
But I think, was it just Spanish, though? So now they have an opportunity to pick.
And it's a full year foreign
So
language?
full year foreign language, and if they do well enough in that class, they can jump up to maybe an honors level course the next year.
Okay. Well, that wasn't always the case in 8th grade, so that's great.
Right.
Yeah, that they have that.
It's awesome.
Online courses, students are not charged for those, right? Is it?
Correct. That's,
Okay,
we pay a flat rate for the Edgenuity,
okay.
and it's all year round, and we use it at night school. Well, night school uses it. We use it during the day. If students are in home tutoring, it can be used in home tutoring. If they're in a hospital, it can be used there. So a lot of applications for those licenses. And we just pay for a certain number of licenses per hour, so they can be used by multiple students. So it's really cost effective.
And my last question, so DECA Prep, is that a new class for 8th grade? I can't remember. But it says in the description that it's for kids who plan to go to college to major in business.
This is course 186.
Yes.
So this is a class we currently run. I think the only change is the students have to pick one of the other courses, one of the other business courses to take. So it's a course we currently run.
Okay. So my only question was that it said for kids who plan to go to college to major in business, but really DECA is valuable to all students. The skills that they learn in DECA, that's my experience anyway.
Right.
Can
No,
be
it's definitely
applied to
applicable.
other- Yeah,
to
so I
all.
wouldn't want anyone to read that and say, oh, well, I'm not going to major in business, so I don't need that. That was my only thought when I read that.
Okay.
Maybe it's been like that forever, and I just never read it
I
before.
don't, it's a fairly new course. This will either be the second or third time it's been on the course selection. So it's not something that's, has a historical second year, right?
Are you really? Okay, that was 3, but. All right, that was all my questions. Thank you. Does anyone else have anything else?
Just when you were doing your presentation, you had mentioned a whole bunch of things that reminded me of something. Did we meet since the play?
I'm not sure.
The play, Streetcar Named Desire.
Oh.
Did we meet? When was that?
What was the date? I'm not sure.
It started on a Thursday night, I know that.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah.
I think we have met, but
Yeah, if I forgot about it, I should have brought that up under good news, because that was great. That was awesome.
pretty good
They always
play.
do such a great job.
thank you for bringing that up. It was a great play. And they're already starting their next play, so there's no rest.
I missed something. It's actually, so our smallest class is our Wilson reading class. I knew I was forgetting something. So that's the smallest class we run, and that's just because it's based on team decision and need.
Wilson reading shouldn't be, theoretically, shouldn't be more than 3 students. It's probably more than that, though, right?
It's 4 because we run an 83-minute block, so we split the class 2 and 2. So actually, on paper, it's 4. It really is 2 and 2 in one block. But I didn't, yeah, it is, but I didn't, that's definitely our smallest class.
Thank you.
Andrea.
Okay, so we're looking for a vote to approve the program of studies.
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? 300.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
everyone.
Thank you. And thank you to my department heads for being here tonight. Mr. Murray's very upset he didn't get called up, by the way.
He can come up. So next on the agenda is the vote on the fiscal year '20 budget. We are going to go ahead with a vote with the 3 members who are here. Did you want to
We're at the end.
just do a recap before we vote? The number that we're voting on is the same number that was discussed at the budget hearing. Correct. Okay.
My own? Yes, so we started out at a high number of what we wanted, what we needed. We worked through, and instead of looking at places we could cut, we looked at places where we could bring in other creative ideas of revenue. So we're still, overall, it's a 7-point-something% increase, but we're not asking the town to fund that in their allocation out of the Chapter 70 money. So in our budget, we're asking the town for about $200,000, which is a ballpark of what they think will be coming to us.
Okay.
So we went through some reductions. There were a few reductions that we took off that we felt weren't needed. And that brought us down to a more reasonable number that we could live with.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to go through what we changed. I mean, we didn't reduce any positions. We just didn't add positions that were asking to be new this year.
Right. But again, so the change is that nothing has been changed since the budget hearing. What was that,
Correct.
a week or 2 ago? Okay.
Correct.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Just want to thank you and the Budget Advisory Committee for all the hard work. Every year, it's always it's a tough job. I would say in hindsight, I mean, this is all of our faults. We probably shouldn't have come in with the number that we did at the beginning. We did that just to show everybody where we were starting. But usually we wouldn't show that number. We'd get to this point first. And I think in the future it might be nice to just kind of show this just as far as a work in progress, but then present for the first number to be the real number that we're hoping to get.
Well, I really feel like that was the consensus of the school. I know, Mary, you weren't there, but the members of the school committee who were there, at that time. And so, well, the only thing that's happened since the budget hearing is that we did meet with the finance committee last night. They had asked us to come. We just had a further discussion about the budget. Nothing was changed. Did you want to say anything about that meeting or no? So we're going to go ahead then with the vote on this budget.
Can you just present the numbers in net, non-net, and total?
Sure. So the net school spending is $27,440,821. The non-net school spending is $1,821,425, and then the total budget request is for $29,262,246.
So we would be asking the committee to please vote 3 times.
Yes.
The first vote will be for $27,440. Well, what is-
27 million, you meant?
Yeah, $27,440,821 would be the non-net amount that you will be.
That's
voting.
non-net?
No, that's the net.
Net, sorry.
All right. So
Getting all mixed up.
I move that we approve and insert that number again, please.
$27,440,821.
Motion's made.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 300. So next, we will be looking for a motion to approve the non-net amount.
I move that we approve, insert the number.
$1,821,425.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 300.
And then the total bottom line budget number is $29,262,246.
I move to approve that number.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 300. So I would just echo what Mike said. Thank you for all of the hard work. There's been a lot of work that's gone into the process, and so we appreciate all the work that's been done by the business manager and the superintendent in her office. We'll move forward. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, you're next on the agenda
Next on the
again, right?
agenda.
Okay. So next is the financial report for the current budget year.
So I tried to keep it similar to what we've seen in the past. I know Mike's laughing that it's printed so big, but it's hard to see all those numbers. I mean, there's nothing that really jumps out when we do a comparison between last year and this year, and I tried to show that here with a little summary of, this report does not show a significant difference between last year and this year at this point in time. You'll see that the Wareham Public Schools has expended approximately 31% of their budget at this point in time, and last year they spent about 29.75. So we're still pretty much in the same area at the same time. There are no accounts that are really standing out that are going to be in deficit. You'll see there's a remaining balance of about $20 million. This year, I think a little different is what we did is we encumbered salaries so we can kind of track the bottom line better. So there's $20 million remaining, of which $13 million at this point is encumbered for salaries, and each payroll that goes by, that number decreases. So we have approximately, there's about $6 million left of available funds to continue to run the budget. And those are for things that are unanticipated, or like a lot of times we can't predict substitutes. I mean, things that can't be encumbered because we just can't predict it. Unanticipated expenses come through. So there's $6 million there. And we're pretty comfortable because it's running similar to last year. When you go through the numbers, and I know you all have the report, I don't want to go through everything because there was nothing that really stood out when I looked at the numbers. I mean, we'll continue to watch. The areas of concern are usually your utilities, your unanticipated speds costs. Those are the ones that we watch a little more closely than the others. We are on somewhat of a spending hold right now. I mean, we're purchasing things that we have to run the classrooms, but there's no extras going on right now because we're trying to be very careful with what we spend this year. And I know we're also watching like utilities at the Minot building versus the Minot school, at the middle school, to see what kind of savings we're going to have, because the expectation was that we're going to be savings in building use and utilities when we moved over. And, in 6 months, we don't really have, an accurate number. At the end of the school year, we will, when we can compare the end of the 2 years of what, what the savings truly was between moving Minot, to see what we really come up with. I don't know if there's any questions, if there's anything on here that you want to, I tried to be as explicit as possible and explain each category so we know what each category covers. So, I mean, for instance, when I look at like the first line item is school committee, we've expended 19%. This year, 67% last year. However, we increased our budget. I'm anticipating that was probably because of negotiations coming up. So we knew that was coming, we increased it. So, I mean, most of the expended percentages are in the 50 percentile, which is, we're pretty much almost halfway through the year. So there's nothing, really on here that jumps out at me at this point. At the end of the report, I did put together a summary, so you could kind of see it all summarized on one sheet, comparatively. And you can see, a lot of the budgets went down, which was the intent, obviously. We had to do some cuts last year and reductions and major changes with closing down a school. But if you go through the numbers, they're all pretty similar from year to year, anywhere from the 30s to the 40s to the 50s. So I don't know if you have any specific questions or other information that you need. Is this sufficient for what you're looking for? Mike wants more?
This is really great for what it is. I'm just still used to the old way where we had more columns squished together, and you can see things, all the lines and all that stuff. Oh,
Well,
that
the
one.
lines were on a different schedule behind
okay.
it,
Maybe I
right?
ran
Yeah.
out of paper. I don't know. So, okay.
I'm not sure she could have included any more detail.
Okay.
I tried to
So-
give you
Okay, so
every-
probably,
yeah.
I probably just didn't see it
Right.
then.
I'm trying to
Okay.
give you everything,
Yeah,
because
I
I'm
must
about
have
being
it if everyone else has it.
transparent, so, and it might look a little different, like if you look at, and mine, the printout didn't print out correctly, but if you look, for example, at Deacon's, is the first one. On my sheet, it just says salaries and salaries. I don't know if that's what. The first one is regular ed staff and salaries, and the second one is special ed staff and salaries, because for me, I like to see the breakdown and the percentage of what's going on between the sped and the regular education, and I don't know if that's normal for you guys to see, but that's something that I like to do.
Well, this report is great, and this is more detail than we were given last year.
Okay, great.
I don't have another
That
reference.
makes me happy.
But yes, definitely more detail. And the format is great, and I appreciate all the work
Thank you.
that went into,
Well, I try to think
doing
about what
this.
it is, you don't need all that detail, because you'd have 100 pages. So I kind of summarized it by major categories, and gave the summaries and kind of explanation of what makes up those, because some of those areas, you don't really know what falls underneath.
right.
So I tried to put little summaries in there of, this is what's covered by these accounts.
No, I appreciate your explanations. I think it's great.
Thank
I
you.
think it's great. I did have some questions, but I did get my answers to those questions.
Perfect.
So is this something that you'll update monthly now, going forward, now that you've gotten here? Yes, okay.
Yes. If that's the request, monthly, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that would be great, if that's reasonable. Is that,
Yes. Oh, now
Okay.
that, absolutely.
okay,
Hopefully, at the next school committee meeting will be like a grants and revolving type breakdown. We're still compiling that stuff. We're rolling the year over, so I'm hoping to report that the next round.
okay.
Get on
When you say you're on a spending hold, so are there things that people expected to have in this budget that now they're not getting? Or is it just, we're just watching everything?
We're watching everything, and I don't think it's things they were expecting to get that they didn't. It's just, sometimes I think there's room in some of the budget that they get something else, because there's money remaining. So we've kind of put a halt to that, and if they can live without it, we've asked them to live without it. And like I said, there's some areas that we can't, like today, we had an issue in a classroom with a special ed child. They needed to go purchase an air conditioner because it was too warm. I mean, can't say no.
Right.
So it's things like that are still going through, because we still have to run. We still have to function.
Right. No, I agree. I just want to make sure, we haven't
It's just,
said-
we're watching.
Which we should be doing anyway, so, yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you very much for that thorough report.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda is the acceptance of gifts.
All right. I would be asking the school committee to please accept the following: SD card holders, camera bags, and lens cleaning kits. 18 hard book covers for older readers, and 12 paperback books for older readers, and $150 from Noah B. Young to the middle school, high school drama clubs. I would ask the committee to please accept the 3 gifts.
Or a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? 300.
Thank you. Next, I would ask the committee to please deem the Hobart mixer, which is located at the Minot School kitchen, to be obsolete. None of the other schools need this equipment. Our high school culinary class does not need this equipment, and so we would ask you to please deem this obsolete.
Any questions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Discussion? This is something we're required to vote on, huh? You can't just say this thing's junk and get rid of it?
Listen, I would love to say it's junk because we're going to be bringing quite a bit of items to you. We will not go individually when we have a list a mile long, but yes, we do have to have it deemed
You
surplus.
put it on eBay and try to sell it.
Well, do you have a buyer for this one?
Well, actually, I do have a buyer for this, and once you deem it surplus, then we can dispose of it. We will be selling it, and the money will be going into a special revolving account that will be earmarked for this.
Okay.
The next meeting, I will be bringing a larger list of kitchen equipment and supplies to you. At this point, I do not have a home for it. If I cannot find a home for it that would be purchased, we certainly will be reaching out to food banks, food kitchens, and other areas that could use the different equipment.
But to answer your question, there is a school committee policy that requires equipment to be deemed obsolete before it can be sold or disposed of.
And how are we doing in the other schools as far as being up to date on their equipment for the kitchens?
Yes, the kitchens, we have pretty up-to-date equipment. You know, our food service people have been going to some food shows. Last year, we bought an air fryer. We bought some other things. We have a grow station in our school, so we're growing lettuce and other herbs.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
yes.
She means a vegetable grow station.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. I
Got to compete with downtown.
I visited the Deacon School recently, and they were showing me all the great stuff that they get really fresh little salads and everything. Yeah, it's great.
It's true that I think you just said this, that the other cafeteria managers have gone through mine and they've taken everything that they can use, right?
They
So,
have, yeah. And the other thing that I would note, when we move into the new elementary, everything's new. Anything that is left in the kitchen at Deacon's will remain in the kitchen at Deacon's. It will not be moved. So I would ask you to please deem the Hobart mixer to be obsolete. I just need the vote.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? 300.
Thank you. Next, along with all the other bill warrants and payrolls, I would add one payroll week ending in December 15th for the amount of $146,546.55. I would also add on to payroll week ending December 8th, $113.10. I would ask you to please approve the bill warrants and the payrolls.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained? 300.
Thank you. Included in your packet, we added the class sizes for your review. We're holding pretty consistent, and if you have any questions, happy to answer. If not, we could do an update in probably April to make sure that we've stayed consistent. One thing I would also share with you about the Minot Elementary building, we're getting ready to look at everything that needs to come out as far as historical. We're going to be taking that out and storing it. We are going to be going through and shutting down the heat, the water, and we will be pulling everything that we can possibly pull utility-wise off of Minot to save the money. There will not be voting in Minot for the upcoming election, and so there's really, at this point, no reason to maintain the building in the conditions that we have been.
Where is the new location for voting?
They're still looking at it. They've talked about east. We would urge the town to visit east before they would make that decision.
They're also talking about maybe combining at least one of the precincts. maybe at Hammond. What are some of the items from the historic items that you would save there?
Pictures, there are at least two beautiful paintings that we'll be pulling. We'd like to pull the plaque, the building plaque. As you enter in the tile, we're going to have to bring the architects and the builders through, show them, because when the buildings, when the demolition occurs, we would like that pulled out so we can relocate it. We hear that there's a time capsule, and we would like, when we do the demolition, to please take care and see if they can find the time capsule for us. I think there's a tree, that if we can move a tree that was given in the honor of a student, we would certainly like to relocate that. And I think, anything else, Joan?
One more tree in memory of a teacher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good, thank you. Does anyone have any questions about the class size report? Okay. We will move on to reports of the school committee. The first thing listed is the mask conference, which seems like it was so far away now. So much time has gone by. Mike, do you want to talk about, you were the delegate, do you want to talk about your experience?
Not really. It wasn't at all what I expected at all. We had voted, or not even voted, we sort of had a consensus beforehand and said what we were going to support or not support or pass on. Well, so I went in there thinking that, okay, I'll just say yes or no or whatever. Well, it was like town meeting. So they have all sorts of amendments and changes, and I wasn't comfortable voting for like a lot of stuff because it wasn't what we voted on. And so now like, I voted as we agreed on for some things, but not others. But next year I'll know better, and I'll get permission from you guys to be like, listen, can I just wing it if it happens to be me? Can I wing it if they change it?
But I really thought it's a valuable experience. Took a couple of days off of work to be able to be there, and it definitely is worth it.
I took 3 days off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one of them I already had off, but I was there for all 3 days. Yeah, I like going there a lot.
Yeah, I
Learn
think
a lot.
the sessions are educational, and meeting with other school committee members and superintendents is.
Yeah, and I stayed for that. I think we all stayed for that dinner for the recognition. I had to leave kind of early, take my dog out. But it was great. Before that, there was a little social thing. A whole bunch of like longtime Wareham teachers were showing up because they're just members of
the school
MASC.
Committee. Yes.
Yeah, and
former school committee members.
Yeah, and teachers too. And I sat with Mrs. Nyman and Mr. Brousseau,
Mr.
and
Brousseau,
it was talk to them for a while. It was just so cool to talk to everybody.
Yeah, it was nice. So next is the recommendations from the Policy Review Committee. Unfortunately, Laurie isn't here, so I think we'll just postpone that to the next meeting when Laurie is here, so she can talk about those.
Do you know when the next policy review meeting is?
I do not. Michelle, do you know?
All right. And who's on that besides Lori?
Rebecca.
So you're going to have to find someone else to do that.
Yes.
Right.
Are you volunteering to be that person?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. We'll have to, look at all of the subcommittees that she was on. Okay, so the only other thing that I wanted to say was we talked about Rebecca's resignation, but I just wanted to thank her publicly and for her service. She had great contributions to the school committee. It's unfortunate that she had to resign, but due to family obligations, I understand, and I just wanted to know that we appreciate the time that she did serve on the school committee. Is there any other business that anyone did not anticipate?
Yeah, no, I just want to echo what you just said. I mean, we ran for the same year, so we got to know each other with that, and I was looking forward to getting to know her more, but well, I'm glad to hear her daughter's going to be there, and we'll still see her.
Yes, we will still see her, yes.
But regarding the process, let's get into a little more detail on that, because now you mentioned there's going to be an appointing period. That's going to be like 10 days, right?
There's an application period for 10 days. I do not know if it's 10 business days,
Yeah.
or 10 days.
And then after which, whatever that pool of people that applied, there'll be a joint meeting of the selectmen and the remaining members of the school committee.
Correct.
To choose one.
Yes.
And I just, you got to say, I find it ironic, for lack of a better word, that the selectmen are going to have more of a say in our committee than we do. But it is what it is.
It's the way they wrote the charter.
Yeah.
Oh, well, actually, the charter and the state law,
Yeah.
as we discussed.
Yeah.
It's in the state law, that's how it's
Yeah.
done. So as soon as they're back in session, which again is January 8th, and it's my understanding that they would invite us to their meeting, and that's when,
And would we interview them in public, the whoever applied?
I believe that's the case,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And just for clarification, on the person that's appointed is only until the election, is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Yes, and then that seat will be on the ballot.
Right.
Isn't the service the end, same time frame as Rebecca served?
No.
Oh, it's brand new?
It's, the person who would be appointed would serve out the rest of this year until the election.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
all right, so to that point, so that'll be like a couple of months that they'll serve. But whoever runs for that seat will finish the remaining 2 years of that seat, in April.
Got it.
Yes, that's true. And there's the possibility, I'm hoping that there are lots of people who are willing to serve. There is the possibility that she wouldn't be replaced if there wasn't anyone. And then the seat would remain open,
Well, so,
unoccupied until April.
so I read the law, and it seems like if nobody applies, or if we never notified the selectmen can just at will just appoint whoever.
You're right.
Yeah.
So that's why it was important that when she submitted her letter of resignation, that I made notice to the selectmen.
Yeah,
So,
but
and they've been very cooperative.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is, if no one applies, they can just pick someone, I don't know, capital planning or something.
Well, they could, but I don't think they'll do that. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Not that I have anything against capital planning.
All right, so if there isn't anything else, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.